In his video, at Anti-Fem-Praxis, Nick Redding asked 3 questions and challenged 3 YouTubers to each answer one of them. Those questions are, what is feminism? Where do non-feminist people stand? And what is to be done? The About page of the Anti-Feminist Praxis website, linked in the low bar of that video, asks that question of its readers. Having read it, I've decided to share my answers, each in its own video. This first video answers the question, what is feminism? Feminism is a political movement designed to capitalize on society's naturally gynocentric outlook by gendering human rights issues to exclude men from consideration as human beings and women from any related obligation or accountability should they violate another person's human rights. To achieve this, the movement portrays women, and only women, as victims of everything, including the direct consequences of our own choices. Their written ideology blames this manufactured victimhood on men as a group and as individuals, treating them in social, legal, and psychological terms as both all-powerful, all-comprehending gods, and as devils who are responsible for all of the world's evil. This supports their promotion of the view that female experiences and interests are uniquely relevant, meaningful, and impacting. Women and girls are uniquely deserving of relief or protection from discriminatory law and policy, and men and boys are uniquely guilty of being the cause behind any grievance feminists name as a women's issue, and therefore accountable for providing that relief. This is fleshed out via some of the movement's ideological concepts, such as patriarchy. Well, different feminists will articulate the concept differently. The various descriptions all have in common a reliance on the belief in a social structure comprised of legal and social environments and practices created by and geared towards accommodating men, which, by that very nature, oppress women. Essentially, it is a term created by the second wave to expand the concept of male chauvinism from an individual behavior to a chronic, society-wide issue. Belief in patriarchy theory relies heavily on circular reasoning, which uses the aforementioned gendered view of human rights issues as evidence that women are oppressed, and the claim that women are oppressed to justify gendering one's view of human rights issues. The feminist movement itself is divided between its establishment, or its architects, leadership, and organizations, and its grassroots. Among both of these sets, the movement can further be divided into activists, academics, media, grunts, and warm bodies. Activists include legislative lobbyists, or leaders who direct grassroots campaigns to influence legislators, policy lobbyists, or leaders who direct grassroots campaigns to influence policy, and propagandists, or leaders who direct grassroots campaigns to influence public perception and attitudes. Academics include the composers of feminist theory, feminists working in research fields who produce statistics and conclusions to back that theory, administrators in educational institutions who ensure that feminist theory is part of the institution's curriculum, feminists working in education to train students in that theory, and students who absorb feminist theory as part of their studies, such that it affects their interaction with others in society. Media involves broadcasting and publishing. This would be anything from television and movies to news publications to radio to podcasts and blogs. Grunts are the movement's working grassroots. Feminists who don't necessarily have individual power and influence, but by following the directives of various leadership, assist in achieving their goals. These are the foot soldiers in feminist grassroots campaigns, the students who fill the seats of interdisciplinary studies classes, the distributors of feminist propaganda to their peers in society, and very often the providers of anecdotal evidence feminist activists, academics, and media use to support and perpetuate their beliefs. Warm bodies are the part of the movement's grassroots who do nothing but wear the label and talk about how great it is. They're useful to the movement in 3 ways. They spread its propaganda without question, they increase its apparent size, and they provide a loyal but mindless shield against criticism of the movement's malicious acts against men and boys. In other words, these are the movement's useful idiots. Feminist activists use a gendered approach to human rights issues to push for law and policy, ostensibly to remedy social or legal infringement against a human right, written in such a way as to reserve its benefits and protections for only or mostly women and girls, and so that any obligations or restrictions laid out in it only or mostly apply to men. These laws and policies often include funding which benefits the feminist movement through job creation and payment to feminist-run organizations. Feminist academia and feminist media are used to support this activism by producing and selectively presenting information to support the activists' portrayal of issues and environments in a way that supports the anti-male discriminatory legislative and policy changes they seek. In some cases, feminists have even lobbied for law which funds research done in facilities that only serve women, and then used that research to promote the narrative that the issue in question only or nearly only affects women. Grunts and warm bodies are used to widen the dispensation of related propaganda and to defend against criticism of its content. Their function in the cycle is to make challenging the narrative socially unacceptable. One example of this is the feminist approach to family and sexual violence. Despite compelling evidence that these types of violence are a genderless issue, the feminist establishment spent decades getting gendered intimate partner and sexual violence law passed in the United States. Feminist leadership latched on to the stereotype of the drunken, wife-beating husband and the long-suffering, innocently victimized wife, and the existing perception of sexual violence as only a male-perpetrated crime against only female victims. They expanded that type of domestic violence, a minority among cases, and promoted it as the predominant type of case. They began to push the envelope on sexual violence from an intentional crime of contravening an unwilling victim's refusal toward a crime defined by how the female in the interaction felt about it after the fact. Feminist academia tailored survey-based research designed around existing feminist theory to inflate statistics on male violence against female partners while ignoring evidence of female violence against male partners. This research was particularly designed to inflate the apparent incidence of sexual violence by defining instances in which, in the researchers' opinions, the woman should have felt victimized as sexual violence, a stipulation which treats the intent of the alleged perpetrator and the actions of the alleged victim, including active and willing participation in the sex act, as irrelevant. Feminist media used the combination of feminist theory and data and conclusions from that biased research to promote their epidemic of male violence against women narrative. Feminism's grassroots picked up on that narrative and spread it far and wide. Belief in the supposed epidemic was established, preparing society and legislators for a call for action. Feminist media increased public pressure by promoting that narrative along with the data and conclusions from that biased research, and feminist leadership and organizations lobbied for gendered federal law using those media reports. The grassroots was rallied to pressure legislators to comply. During that time, a genderless federal law was passed that provided funding for shelters where victims of family violence could flee their home environments. The Family Violence Prevention and Services Act of 1984 strengthened law enforcement's approach to intimate partner and sexual violence by establishing that the victim being a member of one's household or in a relationship with the perpetrator does not excuse any violent crime. Feminists, not satisfied with it, continued applying pressure until it was replaced with the Violence Against Women Act of 1994. The Violence Against Women Act gendered everything in the Family Violence Prevention and Services Act, including the label for shelters. They were no longer family violence shelters, but women's shelters. The law also funded training for officers, prosecutors, and court personnel to view intimate partner and sexual violence as an area of crime that is specifically male perpetrated against specifically female victims, and to interpret all evidence of intimate partner and sexual violence through a filter of feminist ideology. It funded the creation of special units specifically to focus on the requests of female accusers. It funded the development of communication and tracking systems around the concept of addressing only violence against women. It funded the provision of additional crime victim services over and above that which is available to the general public for only women. It funded agenda-based research intended to, quote, increase the understanding and control of violence against, again, specifically women. These grants fund research done at facilities which serve only women, and the data is used to portray intimate partner and sexual violence as a male-perpetrated and perpetuated female-experienced issue. The data and conclusions from this research are used to pressure legislators to keep law addressing intimate partner and sexual violence gender discriminatory. Each of the areas I just mentioned that are funded by grants from the Violence Against Women Act is a fountain of jobs for graduates with an interdisciplinary studies focus or expertise. Establishment feminists, the movement's leadership and organizations, use the data and conclusions that come from them, along with that patriarchy theory-based filter through which female experiences are seen as more relevant, meaningful, and impacting, and all culpability is transferred to men and boys, to perpetuate the public narrative and continue to shape public opinion for the purpose of supporting that pressure. The movement's grassroots pick their propaganda up and spread it far and wide. And again, the warm bodies shield it by perpetuating the social unacceptability of questioning that narrative. So, feminism, in a nutshell, is the politically targeted financial exploitation of society's tendency to favor and protect women. In other words, it's a giant scam.